Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Trent, and this is the show where we dive into all things youth athlete development, strength and conditioning, and the mindset needed to thrive on and off the field. Whether you're a parent looking to support your child's athletic journey, a coach seeking fresh insights, or an athlete ready to take your game to the next level, you're in the right place. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our latest episodes. If you enjoy the show, please give us a like, share it with your friends, and help us reach even more people who can benefit from these insights. Together, we can empower the next generation of athletes to perform at their best. Now, let's get into it.
One thing I like to use is, as a mate of mine, he told me about this story. He was in a class, I think, and he was talking about chess masters. And he was saying, like, how many calories can you actually measure their metabolic output when they're playing chess?
Wow.
Well, technically you can. And he was saying some grandmasters can burn up to 8,000 calories in a day.
That's wild.
Just from sitting on their ass for the majority of the time, probably clocking up about 3,000 steps. You know, just go to the bathroom and get a feed and all that jazz. And it's quite interesting because it's the cognitive load. And a lot of people don't realize from a nutrition perspective, like your brain is the size of two fists, right? But it takes a minimum of 20% of your calories. And then you add in the cognitive load from study, maybe you're doing film or something like that. And if you haven't got, adequate fuel on board, of course you're going to fall asleep, right? Your body's going to conserve that energy. It's going to go into that survival mode. It's not going to go into that mode where you can actually start to learn what's being projected on the screen or what's out in front of you. So it's quite interesting when kids start to understand that the brain uses more calories, potentially more than the actual training sessions, and then just from physical output, then they start to understand is like, oh, okay, cool. I actually need to start fueling a lot more. So they got to. I think that's what really needs to happen is when they start to learn, we start to teach them more, but more about themselves, but how obviously we have this general knowledge, but we need to apply it to the kids and how it affects them and how they're experiencing the world at that current moment or in the last week or so, and if they will actually want to change it. If you want to change it, this is the way that we would want to start changing it. And then they can start going to their parents, have the conversations with them about what changes need to occur.
Yeah, it's good.
Anyways, I got ramble about this for ages as well. Drop off in terms of participation and continuing on with the strength and conditioning program, or they stop coming in consistently and they're just on and off. What are some of the things that you see from that perspective from athletes that there might be 6s and 7s out of 10, but they're just like they're good for 2 months and something comes up, or they got a tournament or they've got some sort of family thing going on, and the excuses start to compound over time. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, we see kind of everything across the board, right? We see, you get to know your athletes, right? So like you see those kids that you're like, if a black cat crosses the street, they're not coming in, right? Like anything that happens is gonna like get in their way and cause them to not want to come in. And then you get people that if they're like, hey man, I have so much going on, that in reality they're probably right, and you're almost supporting them in the fact of like, hey, way to listen to your body, and you need to take a break, and let's find a way to make up for this at another time and reschedule you, or find a time where maybe you have a little bit more recovery in between or something like that. But I would say our biggest changes are just seasonal, right? Like, we have these differences between our club sport schedules and then our school sport schedules, where generally during like a club season, we can still get athletes in at a pretty good frequency, and we're just managing their practice and training schedules to make sure that obviously they're fresh and well prepared for competition, but they're also able to maximize their training as much as possible during that time. And then during school seasons, I mean, if they're practicing 5 to 6 days a week, it's really hard to keep them in a normal training routine and flow. So usually that's where we'll see frequency drop off. And then we have just our purely seasonal people who, like, sometimes you're only going to see these people over the summer. Like that's it. Like school schedule and having 3 kids is enough of a problem for them that you're going to get them over the summer and that's it, right? And then you have those athletes that train almost entirely year round and find a way to work it in, and they're more frequent in their off seasons and they're less frequent in their in seasons. And you just manage those training cycles and periodization as a coach to help try to, 1, maximize the training during those different seasons, but 2, keep them healthy and uninjured, right? Throughout the process as well. So, we kind of see all the different levels there. But one of the things that we've done recently is we switched from package training options to membership options. And this was built in a way that helps to drive that frequency and consistency, because we know that the athletes or clients in general who are the most consistent will see the best results. So I probably pushed it off way longer than I should have. I mean, I've been thinking about doing it for years, but I finally was like, whatever, like, we're just going to do it. And it was a little rocky at first, but they're choosing a membership based on the frequency that they're committing to, right? So if they're on a 2-time-a-week membership, they got to use those 8 sessions in a month or they lose them. And they feel that pressure, right? They're like, oh, okay. Like it gets rid of some of those people who are really good at making excuses. Like anything comes up, then they miss.
Yeah, they're like really flaky.
Yeah, it's like, use it or lose it. Like, it's on you now, and they don't want to lose money. So, that helps in that sense. And it helps other people who are pretty good, but maybe things come up. They're good at better at rescheduling than just like, well, we'll just kick that can down the road and make up for that later. So that's one of the ways we've tried to just naturally, organically almost combat the infrequency, is it's built into their memberships now. But also, having those conversations with kids and understanding what their demands are as a whole, and making sure, to the points that we were making earlier, we're balancing those in a way that's most effective for their development and putting them in the best positions to succeed.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to the athletes dropping off, yes, because we run a membership model as well. 2, 3, 4 times a week. Obviously, it depends on the training season as well. Is actually sitting down with them and actually understanding what their training schedule is going to be like for the next 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. Is there a period where you're going to be away because you've got tournaments or whatever it may be? You're planning on taking a holiday or something like that. Okay, cool. We can actually start to forecast for that and plan ahead. And it just probably gives more, I guess, assurity in terms of obviously the consistency for the kid. If you're coming in, our expectation is you come in, what you've planned to do, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll hold you account. We'll follow up, make sure everything's going right. And if things aren't going right, and then we'll have that, that uncomfortable conversation to make sure that, the whole point of, for you and your child is to train at certain periods of time is to obviously improve the overall athleticism for X, Y, and Z moving forward. That's been one of the ways that we've done it. I think the other way that we've actually started to look into is actually do bring a friend promotions as well. And I think this is really cool during the school holidays for us. So we have like 2-week periods scattered throughout the year that, we encourage like the teams that we have that we work directly with, and even with our members, like bring a friend in, like actually just bring him in. Come and do this training session together. So it kind of improves that adherence effect that, you brought a friend in, now I've got to show up.
Right.
And there's no school on, so you have no excuses as well.
Right.
So there's no excuses to bring a friend in as well. So everyone's on school holidays. So it's good from a business perspective, but it's also good from, I guess, from an adherence perspective as well. Adds a different element to it. But I think the other key thing is that I've noticed is from a training program perspective, and having these recaps and sit down with the athletes, for 5-10 minutes to have a discussion. What is the plan for the off season, or what is planned for in season? Or what representative programs do you have coming up that we need to be aware of? Because it can start to get manic. Like from March to June in Australia is usually a pretty manic time. Now we're rolling into finals for a lot of winter sports as well. So it's going to start to ease off, and then we're going to have more kids coming in, training more times a week in order to improve just the GPP, general fitness perspective. And then also just keep in touch with the parents as well. I find that's a real good one, just to make sure that the parents are actually holding their kids accountable. And then we're actually holding the parents accountable with us as well, because they're part of the process. They're part of the child's development. You know, they're the taxi driver, they're the cook, they're sometimes they're pseudo therapists to some degree as well. They're the umpires, they're the volunteers. You know, they're part of the process. But we want to make sure that if they're on this journey, that they also feel like they're a part of it as well, and they're not being neglected throughout the process. And of course, every parent wants to know how well the child's progressing. Like who doesn't? Like, and they want to know where the dollars are going as well.
Sure.
Is it actually going into the kid, or if it's not, what's going on?
So, yeah, and that's something, not to go completely off the rails, but that's something I was talking with my one of my trainers about the other day was, you know, these parents who drop off and pick up that you don't really ever see, including them in the process a little bit more, right? Because even with the athletes, like when we retest them and you know, show them their progress, I mean, sometimes the parents aren't even seeing that, right? Like we don't always send home a progress report, but the kids know, like, okay, this is what you got last time, this is what you got this time, this is how much you've improved. And yeah, sometimes we'll, you know, hit up the parents and be like, oh, check this out, this is pretty sweet. But having a more systematic approach to keeping the parents in the loop through the process to help build that deeper client relationship, which I think is one of the biggest pieces of our industry that benefits the business side so much, is building strong relationships with families. And I think sometimes it's almost completely disconnected if they're just dropping the kids off and picking them up and only talking to us when it comes to schedule and renewing their membership, right? So that's something that we're even working through that process now, because I think you can get so caught up in the X's and O's of programming, scheduling, getting kids results, building relationship with the kid, that you almost, and maybe this is just us, but you can almost forget about the parents sometimes because you never really even see them. So that's, you know, just a conviction for me, and something that I know we need to improve and get better at here as well.
Yeah, we actually encourage the parents to actually, like, obviously we don't want them to stick around for the whole session, but we encourage them to stick around for the first 5 minutes and just kind of view what's going on, or come into the last 5 minutes, have a chat with the coach, and just, you know, have a bit more of a general conversation, and develop that rapport from that side. Because obviously, you know, showing the conditioning coaches, like, business owners, we have to be networkers as well, right? So we have to engage with the parents, and, you know, and they might be on the board for a club that we don't know of, right? So it's like, okay, that might give us a bit of a way in if we've been really successful with their child. So it probably just, yeah, I think it really comes down to is build relationships. Sometimes it's going to be formal, more like those parents reports, and sometimes it's going to be informal from just them dropping in and having those conversations with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like we've been talking about so much and it's gone so quickly, but what's your advice of working with kids that are considered more like high risk or vulnerable? Now, I'll quickly define what I mean by that. Is the kids that kind of like, they're not particularly enjoying sports, but the parents keep dropping them off or telling them you got to commit for the rest of the season. You know, how do you go about working with those types of kids that come in, or, you know, you've paid for 6 months or for the membership or whatever it may be? How do you go about working with those individuals?
Yeah, I mean, you know, some of this goes to the relationship side. Some of it goes to, like, how long have you had this athlete, right? Because we've seen it where, you know, kids will train with us for a year or two because they're really trying to pursue a certain goal in a certain sport. And then they start to transition out of wanting to really do that sport anymore, but they continue to train because of the environment, because of the relationship with the coach, because they're kind of being mentored along the way too. And it's more than just, you know, the improvements in the specific sport. And this kind of goes into our model here, which I talk a lot about, is the importance of the impact we're able to have outside of just the physical components of sports performance, right? We're able to be a mentor in these kids' lives at a time that is by far the most confusing time in people's lives, right? It's like, okay, I have all these hormones that I don't know what to do with, right? I'm hitting puberty and this is this whole new experience, right? I'm trying to figure out if this girl likes me or if this boy likes me, and it's like devastating my whole day, and it's all I can think about. I got all this homework. I got my parents on me for cleaning my room, doing all this stuff. And on top of that, I need to know in the next few years what I want to do with the rest of my life. Oh, what are you going to go to university for? What do you want to study? What do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like all these pressures. So we're able to come alongside these kids in a time that they're experiencing all these different things and be a support for them, right? To be someone that is more than just a coach who's trying to get you faster. I want to get to know you more, right? Like I want to figure out things about you that go beyond just sport, because in those specific situations that you're talking about, now it's deeper than just physical performance. It's like, oh, okay, so you're not as interested in this sport anymore or doing or accomplishing this. How can we shift our focus to make, maybe this is more of how you want to train for the rest of your life. Let's focus on maybe a different set of goals, because at the end of the day, everyone needs to exercise, not just athletes, right? So let's start to figure out what you like to do, how you might build a routine for just general everyday life, or maybe you want to take up rock climbing now, right? Which you weren't before. Oh, let's start working on some things that are going to help you go explore something new, right? So as you build relationships, you may not even know those things if you didn't care about learning more about the kid, but you may be able to bring it up and be like, hey, I noticed you talked about wanting to maybe try this or do something different. And I think they find a lot of value in knowing like, we're someone that's going to push you and support you similar to like your parents, but we're not your parents, right? So like you can come to us at times where you're uncertain and maybe like, all right, here's a good example. And I know we're, kind of pushing against the time here a little bit. I had an athlete who worked with me for, I think from 7th grade until college. And this is someone who had an opportunity to play soccer in college, but kind of was at this crossroads of like, I don't know if I really want to play soccer that badly. What he really wanted to do was go to just a really big school, like just a giant university that's well known and all these kids go there. Where instead of going to this small school where he could play soccer in college, right? And I remember talking to him and being like, what is it about a big school that you think is going to impact the rest of your life? Like, are you going to be upset someday because there wasn't 25,000 kids at your school and there was 10,000, right? Like, are you going to look back and be like, oh man, I really missed out on that school with 25,000 students, right? Or are you going to look back and be like, man, I had the opportunity to play college soccer and I didn't do it. And you're never going to have that opportunity again. And I told him, I was like, you can do whatever you want. But I was able to play a sport in college. And even though it wasn't at the highest level, and I could have easily like walked away from it and been like, I don't know if I want to put in that much time and effort for something that I don't know if I'm that, passionate about anymore. I'm really glad I did it. And I've never one day in my life been like, man, that was stupid. Like, why did I even do that? Right. And he ended up making the decision to go play in college. And I've talked to him since then. And he was glad that he did. Right. So this is an example of helping kids work through things and being a voice outside of their parents. Because his dad talked to me. He's like, I want him to go play. But he's not going to do it. And I came along as like, you're going to do what you want to do. And at the end of the day, it's fine. But you need to understand the fact that this is an opportunity that you'll never get back, right? And you need to ask yourself, is there a possibility I could regret this down the road versus just going to some ginormous school for really no other reason than it's just huge, right? Like, and he came, like you said, kind of earlier on and getting them to kind of make the decision themselves, right? Not making it for them, helping them see things from a different perspective so that they can make the best decision for themselves. And it's just really cool to be able to be in that situation as a coach and be able to have that type of influence. And you're always going to battle kids that their aspirations change and their interests change. And you always just want to be a support through that process, and it's case by case, right? And I don't know if you have some specific examples that have really worked out for you or ones that have kind of boggled your mind, but that's some of what we experience here for sure.
Yeah, the one thing that I do is, it kind of alludes to your point, is perception versus perspective versus perception. So our perception is what we think of something, and everyone has their own perspective on everything, right? You name it, everyone's got their own perspective. You could be 1,000 perspectives. Perception. Perception is to be able to look at it from a different viewpoint. All you did is get your athlete to look at it from a different viewpoint. Right? And it's like, and then I probably would regret it if I didn't take this opportunity, because it is, it is a once in a lifetime opportunity. What does it come with it? Form new relationships, great networking opportunity, play a sport that you particularly enjoy. It might be, a partial scholarship or a full scholarship or whatever it may be, right? It's going to be multiple, things that you need to kind of highlight, but you just kind of shifted his perception to somewhere else to change his perspective, or he changes perspective, and therefore changes perspective on the actual issue at hand. And then the father had a different, he had a completely different viewpoint, right? He obviously wanted his son to go play, but for different reasons as well. So all you did is help him understand to look from a different perspective in order to change his perception, and then he had a lot more clarity in terms of his decision moving forward. And I think that's what I like to do. And I kind of alluded to it without even saying it. I was thinking in the back of my head, like, what's the saying? It's perception versus perspective. It's like with the swimmer of getting a PB versus beating someone. It was like, well, what are you talking about? It's
right.
Yeah. You've just changing the perception of how well they're performed, making it a bit more internalized. And then when they have an internal locus of control, they're more driven as individuals to achieve. It is no longer about the things that they can't control. It's more about the things that's within their control. Then the only thing that's really within their control is how they go about their business.
And then you can even allude to like, oh, it's funny because when you told me your goals, you said you wanted to get faster, not I want to be faster than that person, right? Like you didn't give me this person's name when you told me your goals. You just said you want to get faster, and you are. So why are right? Like, are your goals changed? Are we only trying to get faster than that person?
Yeah, because I think part of the reason is because teenagers, it's about there's three different phases or 4 different phases, in life. One is when you're 0 to 8 to 10, we're reliant on our parents to live and survive. As we transition to puberty and adolescence, we're more reliant on our peers because we value our peers' point of view more than our parents' point of view. That's where these kids are kind of stuck at the moment. They value other people's points of view more than they value their own. As they get older, maturity comes into play. The old saying, your brain is fully formed at the age of 25. That's when maturity comes in. We can see things from our own perspective for what they are. And then later on down the track is you can rely on me. So like our parents can rely on us, as they go to an older age, we can look after them as well. So we go through like these 4 kind of like milestone changes. And a lot of times as kids, they're kind of stuck in that comparison. And obviously we're talking, comparison is a thief of joy. Right? We know joy comes when they achieve what they've set to achieve and they're clear on that and their focus is on that. But as soon as they say, I lost to this person but still got a PB, it robs them of that joy of the PB when they initially said. So we changed their perspective through giving them a different perspective. Oh my God. That we changed their perception by getting the look from a different perspective.
Yeah. And this just came up the other day with a client. The mom had talked to me because she's a client as well. And she said, hey, if you're comfortable with it, could you talk to my son? Because he's been taking Zins, right? I don't know if you guys have the Zin culture over there, but they're basically
it's not big here, no.
Yeah, nicotine patches, right? All the kids are doing it now. Like, and especially in his specific sport, they're just running wild with it, right? And she asked me, she's like, if you're willing to, I don't want it to be uncomfortable, but I have a pretty good relationship with the kid. And I was like, I'll talk to him about it. Like, I don't care. I'll talk to him. So the next time he was in, I started talking to him about it. And, he was giving me the same kind of song and dance he was to his mom. And I told him, like, listen, I'm not here to tell you, like, you need to stop doing something, or it's the end of the world, or this is the worst, right? But he was saying something like, well, it could be worse. I could be smoking cigarettes or doing this other thing, right? And so to your point, trying to get him to change his perspective is, I was like, everyone can always say, I could be doing something worse, right? Like, someone could be snorting cocaine and be like, oh, I could be shooting heroin, so it could be worse. He's like, well, that's crazy. I'm like, no, that's exactly what you're saying, right? Like, you're doing something that you've admitted isn't good for you, but it could be worse.
Justified.
Yeah, so I give you an example of something that you think is like, that's crazy though, but it's exactly the same thing. So just getting him to shift his perspective. Now, that said, I don't know that he's changed his behavior at all, right? But I know that it was valuable to him. And his mom reached out to me afterwards and said, hey, I really appreciate you talking to him. He talked to me afterwards and said that, like, he understood where you were coming from, and, like, at least he was receptive to it. And I think that's important as coaches. And it goes, again, into the training atmosphere, but even outside of the training atmosphere, where we do have the power in this window of time, exactly like you're talking about, where other people's opinions matter more to them than their parents, right? Because parents have just been an authority figure for so long that they don't want to deal with that, right? So having somebody outside of that they know has their best interest in mind, but is not their parent, but is an adult that isn't going to, like, feed into their adolescent nonsense, is really healthy for them, and something I really truly value in the positions that we have, because I know that we're impacting these kids for life beyond sport, which is going to be more of their life than in sport. So that for me is something that's just really, really huge and super important about what we're able to do as youth sports performance coaches.
Yeah, it's so much more than just lifting weights.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a few North American listeners. Where can the North American listeners find you?
Sure. Yeah. So our website is SOMA, SOMA-P as in Paul, F as in Frank.com. So SOMAPF.com. I'm on Instagram at coach_Brandon Kress. We also have a SOMA sports performance page on Instagram and Facebook. So you guys can find us there. Feel free to throw us a follow. We're always throwing up, stuff that's going on here at the gym and client results and all that type of fun stuff. And if you're ever in the Centennial, Colorado area, reach out to us. We would love to have you come visit the facility and see what we got going on here.
Yeah, I'd love to do a trip to the US and get back to especially Wisconsin after that.
Oh yeah.
That's an unbelievable facility, and some of the coaches I worked with are still there to this day as well. So we'd be pumped to come back. And that's funny because, as we mentioned, a couple of weeks ago, one of my soccer athletes, she just relocated to Prague recently. So she's playing professional over there. She went to the high school across the road from your facility. So
yeah,
it was such a small world.
Absolutely. I mean, we could throw a rock and hit that high school. That's how close we are. It's absolutely crazy that she went there. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's nice. That's such a small world. But yeah, first, Brandon, it's been an absolute pleasure, to talk shop with you. If you're ever in the area in Colorado, in North America, go visit this facility. For the North American listeners out there, we do have a few of them. Go check them out on social media. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Cheers. And I'll see you on the next one.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.